Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at the 2025 Virginia governor election with now less than 2 weeks to go until election day. I just did New Jersey's governor's race yesterday, so I'm doing Virginia now. Make sure to check the New Jersey one out if you have not yet done so after this video as well, as I think it's also a very good one, a good video for you to go check out. So the Commonwealth of Virginia, the 2025 Virginia governor election. I've covered this a few times now, but in the final few days, let's go over it again. This is the Virginia governor's race. It is an open race due to the fact that Glenn Youngkin, the Republican incumbent governor who won a very close election in 2021, is term limited per Virginia's constitutional law that a governor cannot seek consecutive back-to-back terms. So a governor or a past governor like Terry McAuliffe, for instance, was able to run for governor again in 2021 because you can't serve consecutive terms, but you can serve a second term. You have to wait for the term after you to expire, though, and then you can run again. So Youngkin is term limited, and it is an open race. Now, this is an immediate top target for the Democrats, as Virginia was won by former Vice President Kamala Harris by a little bit under 6 points in 2024. Though that is pretty decently competitive, the Democrats certainly are eyeing this state. And it became very apparent early on that the two candidates in this race were going to be former U.S. Representative for the Democrats, Abigail Spanberger, and the current Lieutenant Governor of the state of Virginia, or Commonwealth of Virginia, Winsome Earle-Sears. So we knew for a while this was going to be the matchup, and these two have been campaigning as basically the general election nominees for a very long time now. As for the general election right now, the predictions on this race are pretty solid. That Cook Political Report, Stabler Crystal Ball, and Race to the White House all have this race listed as likely for the Democrats. This would also be a flip from the Republicans to Democrats from red to blue. So Inside Elections does have this race listed as lean Democrat as of August 28th. Just to give you an idea, because lean, likely, safe, it can all mean different things, whereas likely Democrat typically means a margin of victory of in between 5 and 15%. Now, how this race goes, we're going to go over all that, but that's what likely usually means for the margin of victory, is somewhere in between 5 and 15. Now, what we all came here for, the polling on this race has shown in the last few weeks. We've had some more polls come out since the last real in-depth breakdown video. Several of them have been Republican pollsters, and a few have been Democrat pollsters as well, but even still, this is shown to be a race that Abigail Spanberger certainly seems to be winning, even in the Republican polls, which I've reiterated in some past videos as well, but I'll say it again in this one. When it's a Republican or Democratic poll, I usually shift the margin of victory for one candidate over the other in that race or in that poll by roughly around 5 points to account for the bias of the pollster and doing it for the party that they support, the candidate they support. So, for instance, this Qantas Insights poll, which shows Spanberger leading over Sears by about 5 points, I would roughly shift this one by about 10 or about 5 points or so, bringing it up to 10 points to account for the bias of the Republican pollster there. So, with this and with the polling averages, Abigail Spanberger now leads by 6.1% from Decision Desk, Race to the White House 7.5, Real Clear Politics 6.1, Vote Hub 6.9, an average of 6.6%. Now, unlike the New Jersey governor's race, where the current polling averages are under 5 points and about 3 out of the 4 averages, in this one, all 4 of the averages show Abigail Spanberger leading by more than 5 points and putting it in the likely category based on the polling data currently out there. There is, I will noticing this race, so there are some similarities to New Jersey, though. For one thing, Winsome Sears and how she's polling, she is polling roughly around 43.5% to 44% of the vote, which is a little bit less than Chitterelli in New Jersey, but she's polling right around 43.5% to 44%, which, as I said in the other video, is not a very strong position to be in at this current stage of the game for the Republicans if you're hoping to win, especially considering that Abigail Spanberger is breaking 50% in every single polling average. And that's essentially the line that you don't want to cross if you're the opponent of another candidate where they are breaking 50% of the vote. You can win an election depending on how the election system works without breaking 50% of the vote, with third-party voters and with another candidate not getting as high as you. For instance, it's possible in Virginia for Spanberger to win, say, with like 49%, if Sears is only getting 47, and then there's like a libertarian candidate getting like 3.5 to 4% or something. That is mathematically possible. That can happen. That has happened actually before the 2013 governor's race. Would be a pretty good example of that one, where we saw the Democrat get 47.75%, Ken Cuccinelli, the Republican, 45.23%, but then a third-party candidate got 6.5%, so the election was won without reaching 50%. That is possible, but most of the time, the winning candidate does break 50%. In 2017, the Democrat Ralph Northam defeated Ed Gillespie, the Republican, by 8.9%, getting up to 53.9%. Based on how Winsome Sears is polling, it's looking more like a 2017 governor matchup in Virginia than a 2021 matchup, where we saw Glenn Youngkin win by 1.9% against the Democrat Terry McAuliffe, who, for his own credit, despite losing to Youngkin in this race, McAuliffe did get 48.6% of the vote as well, a decently high Democratic floor in the state of Virginia at 48.6%. And yes, he did lose, but still. And back in 2013, as I mentioned in that race, Ken Cuccinelli got 45.23%. So I'm bringing this back up because when you look at 2013 getting 45.2, 2017 you saw Gillespie get 44.97, you're looking at these numbers and saying, well, how is Winsome Sears doing in comparison to them? She's running at around 43.7% on average, only getting 44% in Decision Desk HQ, without the undecided voters left out there in the third-party vote as well. Spanberger's right around that number, but actually doing a little bit worse than both Gillespie in 2017 and Cuccinelli in 2013. The polling in 2017 at this point, Ed Gillespie was around 44.4%, so only running about 0.5% better or so than Winsome Sears did, but Ralph Northam, the Democrat, was also only polling at 47.7% of the vote. And the race was also a lot more competitive based on the prediction pollsters as well. Lean Democrat, Tilt Democrat, and Lean Democrat from Cook Politico, Rothenberg Political Report, and Savage Crystal Ball. And so that's where things were at this point in time in Virginia in 2017. Northam not getting near that 50% threshold. Whereas in 2025, yes, Sears is roughly about 0.5% down of where Gillespie was, almost a full point down, but still Abigail Spanberger is running about 2.5% better than Northam did. Spanberger already breaking 50% of the vote. And that's the kind of reality. Of course, these are polls. Elections are unpredictable. Like I said in the past video, elections can be very unpredictable. Until the votes are cast, you never really know 100% how things are going to go. But it's clear at this current point in time, Abigail Spanberger is definitely the favorite to win this race. And usually when you see polls where one candidate is breaking 50% of the vote, the odds of the polls being wrong by that much and that candidate ultimately losing is definitely a lot lower than, say, a race where the one candidate's not breaking 50% of the vote and basically, like, anything can happen when there's a lot of undecided vote. And again, I know I've been doing this a lot, but hopefully this is the last time I do it, but just to compare it to New Jersey, where Mikey Sherrill's getting around 48.5% of the vote. She's not breaking 50, so even though she's still leading in that race, there is a mathematical chance for her opponent, Chitterelli, can exceed her number, especially because that 50% threshold has not been met. Whereas in Winsome Sears versus Abigail Spanberger, Winsome Sears can essentially win every single undecided vote that's left out there, but if Abigail Spanberger on election day gets that 50.3% number, then mathematically she just can't be caught if everyone that says they support Spanberger gets out to vote. But that's also a hypothetical. That's usually not how elections work. Usually with the other undecided vote, even if it's a very small number, not every single undecided voter is going to break one way or the other. There's going to be some sort of mix. It can be high or small, but at least 1/10 of that 6% undecided is going to go for Abigail Spanberger, just to make the point even clear that Winsome Sears is in a very dire situation right now in this governor's race. As a lieutenant governor, who was elected 4 years ago with Glenn Youngkin, Sears, as a general election candidate, really seems to be struggling in this race, and one that Abigail Spanberger not only is leading, but it seems in the final few days may actually start to grow the lead a little bit. Just to show you what I mean on this, we're going to look at the Decision Desk HQ polling average, because they have a great chart here that shows what the trends have been like in this race. And this has been one where it actually may have gotten less close as time has gone on. Starting back in January, actually, we can go back to January 8th, 2025, it was a very close race. Definitely a lot more undecided voters, people not making their mind up yet. Spanberger had 41.8%, Winsome-Sears 41%, so a very close race at this current point in time, and it remained this way for a few days, where there was a poll that came out on January 18th. It became around a 7 to 8 point lead for Spanberger, and then at that point went back down to 4, then it went down to 8, and then things never really looked back. Into the spring, a 7 point lead for Spanberger, into getting into the summertime, right around a 7, 8, 9 point lead for Spanberger over Sears. Now we're coming into the fall time. This is where things usually heat up, right around Labor Day and heading into the end of the summertime. This is where things really usually start to get close. And Abigail Spanberger, actually, as Winsome-Sears goes up, also goes up. Here, Sears is at 38.1%, Spanberger 46.7%. Now, Sears goes up to 40.9, raising the floor. That had always been the concern over the summer, was Winsome-Sears was polling in the high 30s, saying, well, she's going to do better than that. But the polling numbers for her were not looking great. But as she'd gone up, Abigail Spanberger also went up to 47.6% and even up to 49.5% right around the beginning of September and right after Labor Day. So as people, the media attention started to pick up, advertising started to pick up, it seemed Abigail Spanberger's numbers went up roughly about 2 points, even almost 3 points in roughly about a few weeks, while Winsome-Sears only went up by about 0.3%. So it seems a lot of undecided voters right around Labor Day that started paying attention seemed to make their decision for Abigail Spanberger in this race. Now, it did go down a little bit for a few days, and Winsome-Sears did go up to 41.5, but then that number broke, where Spanberger, right around September 14th, broke 50% of the vote. And really, there's been a little bit of up and downs, but pretty much since then, Spanberger's been hovering right around 50% of the vote, while Winsome-Sears has gone up to about 43 and now 44% of the vote heading into the final 2 weeks. I think the question at this current point in time is not the question of whether Abigail Spanberger will defeat Winsome-Sears, but by the margin. I'm very confident Abigail Spanberger is going to beat Winsome Earle-Sears. Kind of everything I've laid out in this video thus far has led me to that conclusion. It's just the math of this current point in time, when you consider the election environment of 2025 being the way the governor's races usually work, the opposite of the party in the White House, the referendum on how the president is doing, everything spells a very good night for the Democrats. The last time this happened was, as I mentioned, Northam versus Gillespie. Ralph Northam, the Democrat, ended up winning by almost 9 points, and it seems right now, even though it's only a 6-point polling lead for Spanberger over Sears at this current point in time, based on the trends of that election and this one, we may actually see even an expanding margin of that 8.9%, which is interesting because Virginia, a lot of Republicans seem to vote for Donald Trump in 2024 that did not in 2020 for Joe Biden. But it seems that the Democrats are in for a little bit of a resurgence in Virginia in the governor's election in 2025. Now, I'm not going to talk about the down ballot races for lieutenant governor and attorney general in this video because I think those are a little bit different circumstances, especially with the attorney general's race. But for the governor's side of things, this really seems like a race that the Democrats are in control of, are going to win, and are probably going to win by a pretty sizable margin. The question is going to be what? Is it going to be 6 points? Is it going to be 7? Is it going to be 8? Is it going to be 9? Is it going to break 10? Is it going to go to 11? It's kind of a wide range in this race. I think we're going to see right around where the polling is kind of suggesting. I think we're going to see Winsome-Sears get around 44%. And then the question is, what do those 6% that are undecided do? If they split just the way they are with the, we'll say about 2% or so, because I do believe there are third-party candidates, or there are not third-party candidates on the ballot, just write-in candidates, we're probably going to see Spanberger win maybe around 53, 54% of the vote. Sears would go up to about 44, 45%. That would be right around that same 2017 result of around a 9-point win for Spanberger over Sears if that were to happen. Now, could that get a little bit larger for Spanberger? It definitely could. Could it get smaller for Sears? It definitely could. But just when you look at the path of this race and how it's gone and the trends in this race, Abigail Spanberger is the leading candidate in this race. She's got pretty much all the Democrats locked up. She's got a lot of independents locked up in this race, and just really not a lot of leeway here for Winsome-Sears in this race to have a legitimate shot at winning this election. She has a chance to maybe make the race closer if the Attorney General's race down ballot ends up having detrimental effects for the Democrats on Election Day. Right now, the polling data shows that race has gotten closer, but as a little bit of a tease, I think the numbers may be a little bit less than the Republicans may be hoping for in that race. That's a little tease for the next video, but I think we're going to see Abigail Spanberger win, and by a pretty comfortable margin. Winsome-Sears is probably at this point doing damage control to try and get the race as close as possible, but I don't think her pathway to victory is really going to be there. And no surprise, just to do a quick wrap up here, the prediction for this race, I have the state of Virginia voting for Democrat Abigail Spanberger to be the next governor of the Commonwealth over the Republican Winsome Earle-Sears. The margin right around that 8.5 to 9 point margin. It hasn't really moved too much over the last few weeks or so since the last time I did this. I've had it around 8.5 points, now maybe up to 9. Abigail Spanberger is leading in the polls by pretty much what I expected her to, and over the last few weeks or so, there hasn't been too much movement, so I think this race is remaining pretty much where it is. The undecideds, I think, essentially split 60-40, maybe 70-30 for Spanberger over Sears, which brings it right around that 8.5 to 9 point margin. But again, we'll have to wait and see how this all goes. That's why elections are for, and that's why the votes are cast. Just again to briefly let you know, as I've done some other videos as well, some key areas I'm watching for in Virginia on election night are two key areas in particular. I'm watching the northern DC suburbs of Loudoun, Prince William, and Fairfax counties up here. I'm waiting to see how they come out to vote and what their margins are and what their turnout numbers are compared to the last governor's race and compared to the presidential race as well. And I'm looking down here at Virginia Beach. This is an area, the county itself is more of a 50-50 county, that if the Republicans are winning, they could be in business potentially at making this race closer than expected. If the Democrats are winning Virginia Beach and its surrounding Chesapeake County, if those two are going Democratic, we're likely looking at a pretty sizable Democrat win on election night. So those are two key areas to watch for as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Make sure to stay tuned this coming week, as I have some very important videos for all the 2025 races. And then next week, I have some very big videos planned for the 2025 elections as well that I know you're going to enjoy. And I hope you're going to come back and watch those, because I'm really excited for how those hopefully should turn out. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please remember to like and subscribe, and hope to see you in a future video.